Hello everyone, my name is Benson Numa from Chai TV Kenya, and I'm here today on a test farm, or what we are calling demonstration plantation, or a farm whereby we have tested Fertilizer, fertilizer all the way from China, brought by Dong, who is the founder of the company. This fertilizer is aimed to bring a lot of progress and productivity on the tea farm, increasing your productivity by up to 20%. Earlier, I had a discussion with the founder of the company and the one who revolutionized the entire fertilizer industry, coming up with this great, organic, safe and reliable fertilizer for farmers. And he was telling me that if you start applying it today on your plantation, it's going to take exactly 10 days before you see the results. Now, in the same regard, we have an expert. His name is Ronald, all the way from Uganda. And he's a tea director, a tea farmer, an expert, a great analyst when it comes to matters tea. This is something that is close to his heart, and it's something that I'm sure that you're going to enjoy listening to us. To him, tell us more about such kind of pilot projects, the importance of them, and what can be done to improve the tea sector. Welcome, Mr. Ronald. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about you, a little bit of your background, where you're coming from. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here in Kiambu, Kiambu County.
Yes, Kiambu.
Yeah,
Kiambu
in my country
County.
We say Kiambu. My way you say Kiambu,
Yes,
so
yes,
we say Kiambu, Kiambu County. Tea for me is very close to my heart because I'm speaking this English because tea paid my school fees. In fact, I have memories as a child. I used to pluck tea in the morning and I was able to raise money to pay my school fees. Wow. So I'm a product of tea. I'm made from tea, and my parents worked so hard to pluck tea and to make sure that tea pays my school fees up to the level where I am, where I'm one of the directors and shareholders in the 2 factories in Uganda, in Buhej Tea Factory and the Igara Growers Tea Factory. These 2 factories are the biggest factories. They are the biggest smallholder factories in Uganda. Wow. And I'm very privileged to be one of them and to be one of the leaders and the directors in those 2 companies.
You know, this is really interesting. I'm reminded of the famous African leader Nelson Mandela, yes, who said that education is the only thing that can make the child of a mine worker, yes, to become the mine owner. Exactly. Now I'm thinking the same case to you. You grew up from tea. You went through school, yes, because of tea, and now you own your own plantation. Absolutely. You've been participating in the process of processing tea, packaging it, and maybe also doing exports.
Yeah, absolutely. Our tea comes from the garden and gets all the way to the export. In fact, most of Ugandan teas are exported through Mombasa Tea Auction. Right. So Uganda and Kenya are very close in as far as tea cooperation is concerned. We have the East African Tea Association, which brings all of us together. So definitely when it comes to the tea sector, it's a regional issue. Because tea in East African region, in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Kenya, in Rwanda, in Burundi, and other countries, tea is a major export. For Uganda, it's a big export. Uganda, we have over 34 factories. I know Kenya, you have over 150 factories. Yeah, sure. All these factories process tea mainly from smallholder farmers. A smallholder farmer is like the owner of this farm, sure, Jackson. Is it Jackson? Jackson is the owner of this farm, and he's a smallholder farmer. True. With his 2 acres or 3 acres, Jackson is able to pay school fees for his children. And those children tomorrow, they'll be ministers, they'll be TV presenters like you, definitely, and they'll be directors like me. So for us, tea is such a sensitive crop, and it's a business for us. It's a source of livelihoods. I pluck tea, I go sell it, and get ugali.
Yeah, definitely. So. But let me go back a little bit. Now, when did you start doing tea farming? So, how long ago is that?
So me, 45 years ago, I was already into tea. So before I was born, I was already a tea farmer because my father started up tea in my village in Buhweju, right, and as growing up, I grew up with tea in front of me and started plucking it right.
So once you were done going through school, you kind of like took over family plantation.
Yeah. So at home, of course, all of us are tea farmers. So when I finished school, I'm an engineer by background. So I finished school and then I took over the leadership in the tea sector. I have my own gardens, and also, of course, my parents' gardens, and all our family. Each one has a garden. So tea is very sensitive to us. But coming back to the issue on where we are here today, tea is a major source of foreign revenue for our region. for this East African region. We export it all over the world. So I think for me, tea still remains a core issue for the region and for our people and for the transformation of our society.
Right. Now, maybe Mr. Ronald, you can take us through the importance of such projects, such pilot projects that we are seeing Mr. Shingdong kind of roll out for Kenyan farmers. And I believe he mentioned earlier that they are doing it for other 100 countries, yeah? Yes. Maybe you can tell us what could such a revolution in the field maybe bring to the table of the farmer, the government, the production of a country, and the wholesome kind of economic growth for the entire state?
Thank you. First of all, I'm very grateful that Fertilizer has really started up with this project. First of all, to test and ascertain that the fertilizer that they have from China is actually working in the region. You might have something working in Kenya and it fails to work in Uganda because of the variances in environment and in the climate. So I'm glad that Fertilizer is actually piloting this project and especially doing tests to make sure that we apply this fertilizer and it works. First of all, I want to bring us back to the fact that the world is changing. Technology is changing the world. There's a lot of innovation. You know, innovation is really the new thing. So for us in the tea sector, we also need to participate in these technology advancements. So we need more innovation and creativity into the fertilizer. Farmers struggle with fertilizers. As you're aware, we have a lot of fertilizers on the market and some of them don't work. You apply fertilizer, tomorrow you come back, there's no change. So for us, we appreciate companies and organizations that actually bring high quality farm inputs. So Fertilizer is one of them that has come to say, okay, before I give you this fertilizer, let us first make some trials. So once we try this fertilizer, we are going to say a number of things. One, is it safe? If you apply it on the tea, is it safe? If I'm plucking tea and my hands are in contact with the fertilizer, is it harmful to my hands? That's one aspect. But the fertilizer you apply on the tea, is it safe for human consumption? Will there be some components in the fertilizer that might not be good for human consumption? So those are things that we look at. And then the other important aspect is productivity. What is the productivity per acre or per bush of this fertilizer? If I apply fertilizer in this garden, will there be a change? If you talk about 20% increase in productivity, increase in yield, is it actually 20% or it's just a number? So we need to ascertain those numbers so that we know that this fertilizer actually works. And lastly, is it affordable? You can have a technology, you can have a fertilizer and it comes and we can't afford it. You know, so but affordability goes hand in hand with productivity. If it's giving me 20% increase in yield, then it means I have more money coming in, then I save enough money to be able to invest in the fertilizer. So we are looking at all those aspects, but also how much can we for example have more and more farmers adopt this? So if all the farmers adopt such new technologies and new fertilizers, then we have what we call overall productivity for the country. Then we are able to export more leaf, more tea, and then we are able to get more income, which will help to improve on the livelihoods of our farmers.
Definitely. That actually takes me back a little bit. I remember last week there, we were having this discussion with one of my friends back in the studio. And we were thinking about the same issue that you've just mentioned, about the affordability of the farm inputs that sometimes we get. They come, they promise you that we are going to increase this, and for sure they are doing that. And then the issue becomes they are not affordable, and maybe our farmers cannot access them, maybe they are not available in all outlets close to the farmers, all right? So I don't know what you have to say when it comes to affordability, accessibility, when it comes not only to this fertilizer, Fertilizer, but every other fertilizer that may come the way of the farmer, and how that, if we could make sure that this thing is available and affordable, how that also could help us grow a better culture that also encourages the younger generation. Because I believe after you, your children would also want to take after you on the plantations. But if they look at you and they are like, our dad did this for the longest time and nothing came out of him, then they will be like, no, we don't want to do this. So that will lead to kind of like a distinction, an extinction, of the whole growing of coffee or growing of tea, anything. Yes? Yes. So maybe you can take us through that.
So affordability is a factor that is linked to productivity and quality. If I have an input and that input increases the output, then it means I have more income. Then it means I can actually afford that fertilizer. So for me, the first thing to see is this fertilizer increasing my crop yield? That's a very important question. Because if my yield increases, I've been producing at 20, now I'm producing at 40. there's already an automatic increment, and that increment will cater for the affordability question. So for me, that's extremely important. But also affordability is also linked to accessibility. You know, if I'm distributing it here in Nairobi, what's the price? But if I'm taking it all the way to Kericho, what's the price as well? You know, so I think we need to put all those factors. But also there are some other aspects. For example, how is this fertilizer applied to the crop? Do you use a basin and spray it, or you need a pump? Sometimes we can even have a drone. We now have technology where you can apply fertilizer, liquid fertilizer on tea plantations like this using a drone. So if I'm using a drone, it means that my cost of applying fertilizer is actually reduced, because in a day I can apply fertilizer on 50 acres. But if I'm using the pump on my back, then I'll apply it only 3 acres. So all those factors have to be put in place. But by far, for me, affordability is very important, and I think that's why we have these innovations. For example, the fertilizer you've just seen, you know, you use a small 20 milliliters and you mix it in 20 liters. So you can actually see that with small quantity, you mix it in water and you're able to get a lot of fertilizer that is able to be applied on your tea garden. So again, for me, affordability also comes in as far as innovation is concerned. We need to be very innovative on how we apply these fertilizers and these farm inputs.
Thank you, sir. Now, maybe I would want you to look through to that camera, and I want you to speak to the farmers. You know, in the African kind of a context, we are known for as being the people who are maybe late adopters. We are kind of really slow when it comes to innovations and inventions that come our way. And sometimes even if you prove to people that this thing is working, some people will always like kind of resist, kind of fight it. So I want you to speak direct to the farmers and talk to them. How should they start viewing new innovations when it comes to farming? How should they start viewing new inputs when it comes to increasing the yields? And how this is aimed to help them in the first place?
Thank you very much. To my fellow farmers, especially the tea farmers, the world is changing. If you flash back 20 years ago or 10 years ago, we didn't have such technologies that we have today. 20 years ago, we didn't have mobile phones that we have today. 20 years ago, WhatsApp was not here. You know, Facebook was not here. These technologies have come, and technology is here to stay. And so, if the world is changing, we must change as well. May I encourage farmers to be open-minded, to explore the technologies. But also, we must be mindful that technology should work for us. We shouldn't work for technology. So let's be mindful that we should absorb these technologies and adopt these technologies that actually add value to us. So we should be mindful. And for farm inputs, we have so many fertilizers on the market, so many herbicides on the market, but what is actually working for you? For me, such models of, first of all, testing. Does this technology work for me? Does this fertilizer work for me? If yes, then you can adopt it. Does it have any dangers to my health, to my community, to my environment? That's also very important. Our technologies should not impact negatively on our environment. They shouldn't affect our nature. So we should be able to be open-minded to explore the value that those technologies are adding to us. But most importantly, the world is changing. And we must change. When we were young, they used to tell us that if you don't change, change will change you. So honestly, we must change, and we must be open-minded to the world that is changing.
Yeah, definitely. Now, finally, maybe towards the end of this discussion, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. They're a little bit, the last one will be a little bit philosophical, so that will depend on how you view the entire thing. But the first question is, maybe you can talk to the farmers. Given that Mr. Shingdong said to us that he's going to, the fertilizer is aimed at improving the yield of this kind of a plantation, such that per unit bush, now we are getting more yield, all right? Now, eventually, he also mentioned that it's going to be a really competitive kind of a grade when it comes to the international markets. So maybe you can speak about the grade that we are producing out there, how the farmer should also focus on improving the grade, and how this is also going to help the farmer become at least better. You know, we grew up understanding that if you're a farmer, the only thing you need to do is think about the farm and nothing else. But now we are also seeing things, including people like you, whereby now you're traveling, you're moving trans-border, coming to other countries, still in the business of tea. So you don't really have to be buried in the ground or in the soil for you to practice the entire thing. So maybe you can talk to them about viewing tea as a solution to the international markets.
So thank you very much for that. if you look at our current prices of tea today, Kenya, last week actually, Kenya as a country sold teas in the Mombasa auction at over $2 per kilogram of made tea. That's the average price, over $2. Uganda sold teas at about $1. So you can actually see Uganda needs this fertilizer more than anyone else. But beyond that, the tea price in the tea auction or tea market is mainly dependent on the quality. No one will buy your tea at a good price without good quality tea. To get good quality tea, there are a number of factors. One, you need very good fertilizer, because fertilizer is able to give you the two leaves and the bud that we are looking for. If you have no fertilizer, you're going to get leaf that is like this. It's a banju. You get a banju, and that won't give you any market. No one will buy this. But these two leaves and the bud, someone is going to buy it. So these fertilizers, these farm inputs, together with good agricultural practices, for example, how are you plucking? Are you removing the weed from your tea garden? Are you plucking at the right time? How many rounds are you plucking? Are they 3 rounds or they are 4 rounds? So all those factors affect the quality of tea. Now, if we have good quality in the region for tea, we shall push the prices up. What that means is that the farmer will get a better price for his tea. And that means you can get that money, and then you can now go and pay school fees for your child. So we see tea, good quality tea, fetching better income for the people, and that ultimately contributes to the prosperity of our region.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, on to my final question that I told you is going to be a little bit philosophic. I've been thinking, and this has been for a while when it comes to exports of our produce, not only tea, not only coffee, but the entire produce that we kind of export to other countries. I've been thinking, at the end of the day, does it start to sound as if we give out gold and get back just little pennies, and when the gold comes back to us, we cannot even afford it, yet we are the very people who gave out that gold? I'll give you a good example. On average, how many people in your country or in my country do you think would afford good grade instant tea? How many? Because people are used to the one that you must use the sieve, the bigger one, bigger particle. So really few people can afford the instant tea, which is among the best tea grades when it comes to the processed tea. So I want you to talk to us about that kind of a dilemma, because it's something that I've been thinking about for a while. Do we give out gold and then get back just little pennies? And sometimes when the gold comes back to us, does it come to us at a price that we cannot even bargain or even afford?
That's right. Thank you. Tea. The amount of tea, Kenya produces over 500 million kilograms of tea. Uganda produces maybe over 100 kilograms of made tea. That's the tea that we produce per year. And let me tell you, Kenya and Uganda and other countries, we consume less than 10% of the tea that we produce. What does this mean? You can't consume all that you produce. So you must export it. In fact, 90% of our tea is exported for the international consumption. We only consume less than 10%. We have companies in the region. You can mention all of them, Ketepas of this world, which are under KTDA, and many other companies in Uganda, which actually add value to the tea. They get tea from the tea factories and they package it, and that's the tea that we consume. So I would say that the region, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and other countries, we actually consume very good tea, and all the grades are on the market. You know, affordability is a different question now, but our farmers actually still have access to affordable teas, which are still of good quality. The beauty with tea is that all the grades, from the primary grades and secondary grades, that's the terminology we use in the tea sector, all the teas still have deep value. They have good value. So it doesn't matter if you're taking first grade or second grade, there's a way they blend these teas. So we get the different grades of teas and we blend them. So the tea bag that you took this morning, in case you took a cup of tea, the tea bag that you took has different grades that are mixed together. Okay, now that tea actually is very healthy and is very good. So I would say that still our communities and our countries still have access to quality blends. We call them blends. We blend the different teas and we are able to consume them.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ronald. I hope that you're enjoying this interview. Finally, you've mentioned something that is really something that I love to emphasize on, and I remember even at our previous interview, I think like a month or a few weeks ago, I also emphasized the same thing about value addition. Because I feel like sometimes farmers just want to pluck and then give it away. They're not thinking about the whole subject around value addition, which can also mean more money for them. That's right. That is what I learned in my business class. That's right. That anytime you get something and then you go around packaging it properly, adding a little bit more value, it ends up making more money for you. That's Maybe you can encourage our farmers on the same and give us your closing remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. When you talk about value addition, you see tea, tea is not like maize. When you are a producer of maize, you can go to the nearby factory for maize and make ugali and then eat it right away. Tea, unfortunately, set up a tea factory is some significant investment. So to add value on tea, we need concerted efforts. Kenya is doing a fantastic job through KTDA. KTDA brings farmers together and they make a factory. Same in Uganda. Our farmers, the factory which I'm part of, we are smallholder farmers. We come together and make a tea factory. Now that's value addition. And these are factories that are owned by the farmers. So I think you're very right that we need to work together still to and form and make factories and we add value. That's when we can get good money because the money you get from the leaf is not that much compared to the tea that you sell to the international market. So value addition, I agree with you that we need support from all the stakeholders, including government. And what governments can actually do is to make sure that they give subsidies, remove taxes on some of these farm inputs so that the farmers are able to afford. And what that does, it improves on the productivity. So if fertilizers are not heavily taxed or there's no tax completely on fertilizer, I know Kenya government has been doing a fantastic job on cutting down or removing the taxes and on the fertilizers, then that makes sure that the cost of fertilizer is affordable for the farmer, and that improves productivity, and that raises more money. Then we can invest in establishing more and more factories.
Yeah, definitely.
So just to close, I want to thank you again for the opportunity to speak to your viewers, and also to encourage our tea farmers out there that the tea is here to stay. By the way, this bush where we are standing right now, a tea plant will last for more than 300 years. Yeah, in fact, no one knows how long this garden will live here. True. This garden will stay for the next 300 plus years. Nobody knows because no one is 300 years already. Tea is here to stay. We need to think about innovations in agriculture, in tea processing and tea packaging so that we can continue to make tea a major cash crop.
Definitely. Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you. It's a pleasure.
It was a pleasure having you. Guys, that was it with Mr. Ronald all the way from Uganda. He's in the board of tea directors, and we are really happy to have gotten so much insights from him to understand how tea is working, where the tea industry is going, and how you as a farmer, you as a business person, you as a company, you can roll or jump into the wave that is going on to ensure that you improve on how you do your business, whether it's on the farm or in the factory, whether it's in the marketplace. Take this chance to thank you once again for being part of this. See you next time. Cheers.